Thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Open's European Outlook. I think the take-home message for tonight's video is about the drier than normal conditions that we're going to start to see as we progress through the weekend and into next week. That will, of course, be welcome news for many parts of particularly the southern and southwestern portions of the UK, where it has been an exceptionally wet January overall. You can see here, this is off the GFS ensemble. This is accumulated precipitation anomaly. And this is the upcoming 7-day period. Notice here that we've got the wet all the way up towards Iceland and the far, north of the UK. And we've also got a lot of messy conditions across the central Mediterranean basin. We're going to see some significant amounts of snow, I think, across parts of the Italian Alps into the Balkan high ground as well over the next several days. But like I say, the take-home message is the drier than normal theme. And as we continue to play through this loop here, which takes us out of January and into the month of February, you notice interestingly how the driest anomalies start to peel to the west of the UK. That would suggest to me that if you look at the 500 millibar level, we're starting to see the high push to the west of the British Isles as well, and a trough settling over Europe here. What that tells me is that we're going to start to see the temperatures coming down, I think, as we start to have more of a northwesterly influence. And also we've got the trough over Europe. We should start to see conditions going at to below average temperature-wise, especially in this southeast corner. And I will talk about the record heat that we've seen in recent days across the southeast corner of the continent. And then probably in the next video, I'm going to do a global weather and climate report because we've got a lot of interesting things going on at the moment with regards to record-breaking cold that we've not seen since 1969 in some parts of the world. And I'll look at that in more detail coming up. But it's interesting, of course, nonetheless, that we've got this drier than normal theme. And I think one of the important aspects, in a sense, is the fact that we see the ridge of high pressure backing westwards. Now, this is, of course, according to the ECMWF, or the GFS ensemble. I do apologise. But before we get to that, we are looking at the coldest night potentially of the entire week. Of course, it has been a cold week, especially across the north where we've had more in the way of snow, but not exclusively. Parts of England, parts of Wales, Northern Ireland and the Republic have all seen snow in the last 5 to 7 day period here. But of course, tonight, ahead of the approaching warm air from the west, we've got the highest pressure of the entire week. So therefore, light winds, clear skies, snow-covered ground, temperatures already dropping close to -10 at Loch Liscarnock. These are the current temperatures as of recording. You can see here the milder air over the Western Isles here, indicating that that is the milder air knocking on the western door. But before we get there, we've got temperatures down to -7.8 at Loch Liscarnock, -1 at Tain, -3 at Inverness, Dalcross, -3 at Aviemore. And if the cloud cover and the breeze stays to the west through at least the first half of the overnight period, I think we're going to see temperatures well in the double figures below freezing tonight. But it really all depends on the timing of the increased breeze and increased cloud cover from the west. And then a very different story, of course, tomorrow. We've got a relatively mild conditions across the southeast corner at the moment here. I say relatively mild, 4 or 5 degrees. But the temperatures are going to come down overnight across much of the country. And then over the next several days, the coldest conditions compared to normal. Rather than it being just around the freezing mark today for daytime highs across the north, we're going to be seeing temperatures coming up into high single figures, I think, over the next couple of days. Whereas these kind of temperatures here at the moment, as of recording, could be daytime highs all the way out to Monday of next week here. Looking at this is the latest overview chart of the GFS. We've got a very, very interesting system here over on the west coast of Italy at 991 millibars, a fairly deep area of low pressure, bringing gales, heavy rainfall on the coast, heavy mountain snow. And then as that area of low pressure moves east, we're going to see with colder moving in, we've got significant snowfall to parts of the Balkan region here over the next day or two here. We've also got some heavy snowfall, as you can see, across Poland And of course, with high pressure over the bulk of England and Wales, this is where the coolest temperatures are going to be. Of course, with the high pressure, that lid, atmospheric lid over the landmass, we're going to see fog developing, especially in valleys and low-lying areas. That fog will probably struggle to get to leave some of these valleys through the day. So we could get temperatures struggling to get much above freezing actually, while we could be knocking the door of 10 Celsius, by the way, across parts of the northwest here, especially the Outer Hebrides. I think Stornoway, for example, may see temperatures in the double figures, I think, along with other places. But you can see here, as we continue to play through this loop, eventually we get the moisture moving in during the early portion of Sunday across the northwest, but it really fades out, as you can see here, as that boundary moves into an area of high pressure. And then it's that area of high pressure near the Azores, or between the Azores and Iberia, that is going to start to increase in strength and lift north. And of course, we're pushing the jet stream away up towards Iceland. We've got milder conditions already moving in here, actually. So as you can see here, we start to see that area of high pressure building overhead. Notice here that the latest run of the GFS is actually indicating that we have that area of high pressure. Now, remember I showed you the GFS ensemble, the 500 millibar pattern, and it's showing that westward displacement of the high. That means we're pulling more of a northerly component to the wind here, which means that in essence it might not necessarily be particularly cold like we've seen this week, but at least temperatures will be subdued and held at bay, I think. But it's interesting nonetheless to see weather systems moving over the top of that high. Actually, a bit more disturbed, a little bit more active than I initially thought here. This model has been updated actually. Notice here we've got an interesting feature here on the north coast of the Netherlands. Heavy snowfall through parts of Germany into the French Alps, Switzerland, Austria. By the time we reach this, is of course a way out, a week on Monday here, so a long way out, and we're pretty much knocking the door of February by this stage here. But like I say, we are seeing more high pressure build across the UK and Ireland, and that really shuts down the storminess that we've seen ongoing of recent times, of course. Looking at the 2 meter temperature anomalies, this is quite interesting here because it looks as if, let's go back to the current period at the moment. Extreme warmth across the eastern half of the continent, as you can see here. Colder than normal across the UK and Ireland, living on borrowed time, of course, that warmth to the west moving in. But we get the coldest night over the entire week. I think -10, just under -10 was recorded at Drumnadrochit yesterday morning. That was the coldest temperature in the UK this year so far. But I think that temperature is very much under threat during the course of tonight. But notice here, as we progress through tomorrow, the mainland, the model, the GFS is still holding on to below average temperatures. And like I said before, with a lot of snow and ice still across the northern half of the British Isles, even with that milder air moving in, it takes a while to be able to kind of erode the cold in the lowest levels of the atmosphere, because that refrigeration effect of the snow on the ground means that the warmth never really manages to filter right down to the surface. Eventually it will happen, but it will take probably another couple of days. So even with that southwest breeze, I actually feel probably quite cold blowing over that snow cover during the course of tomorrow. And but notice here that as we progress into the early portion of Monday, forcing the colder into the southeast half of the UK, warmer than average now across Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, north of England here. We've still got warmer than average across the eastern half of Europe here. But notice as we play through the loop, we'll start to see the warmth really kind of becoming more dominant, I think, during the middle and second half of next week here. But notice here that as we press through, now this is off the GFS operational here, so of course there is fluctuation, but look at how chilly Europe starts to become as we progress into the month of February. So look at the amount of blues, something we haven't seen across the entire continent for some time. So it's certainly interesting given this run of the GFS, granted it's only one run. That is a very interesting and very different temperature profile to what we've had so far this month of January, and we know how warm January has been overall. So just interesting thoughts this evening here. I will look more at the stratosphere in the next video. I will also talk about the global weather situation in tomorrow's video, hopefully. So stay tuned for that. Please like, please share, and if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, or rest of your Friday.